day 118 of our journey through the Bible, we continue to look at the prophet Ezekiel. In strange visions throughout the book, Ezekiel proclaims God's message for his covenant people, as well as the Gentile nations that surround the land of Israel. In chapters 4 through 24, Ezekiel describes God's judgment on the nation of Judah because of its rampant idolatry. Chapters 8 through 11 are especially interesting because their prophecies were delivered by Ezekiel in the city of Jerusalem after God transported him there during one of his visions. At the end of chapter 11, Ezekiel was taken back to Babylon, where he continued his messages. In chapters 25 through 32, he proclaims God's judgment against the Gentile nations that surround the land of Israel. In chapters 33 through 48, he speaks of the future restoration of the people of Israel, and it includes Ezekiel's famous vision of the valley of dry bones in chapter 37. At God's command, Ezekiel spoke to the bones, and they arose. Then God declared to the bones, "I will put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I will place you on your own land." This is a clear promise from God that his covenant people would be restored to their homeland after their period of exile in Babylon. Ezekiel also describes a battle which seems to involve present-day Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and many other nations. The battle described in Ezekiel 38 is, quite honestly, very similar to what took place during Desert Storm and some of the other recent fighting in the Middle East. But it involved Russia's armies marching through Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq to fight in Israel. Israel seems to be the scene of that awful battle. Many biblical scholars believe that the battle in Ezekiel 38 somehow precedes the Lord's coming, which means it could take place, well, quite frankly, any time. In chapters 40 through 48, there is a description of the restoration of the temple in Jerusalem and the renewal of sacrifices and authentic worship. These chapters are similar in tone and content to the closing chapters of the book of Revelation. Ezekiel points forward to the glorious kingdom of Jesus, the Messiah. One of the greatest insights of the book of Ezekiel is its teaching of individual responsibility. This prophet proclaimed the truth that every person is responsible for his own sin as he stands before God exposed. In Ezekiel's time, the Jewish people had such a strong sense of group identity as God's covenant people that they tended to gloss over their need as individuals to follow God and his will. Some even believed that future generations were held accountable for the sins of their ancestors. But Ezekiel declared in chapter 18, verse 20, "The soul who sins shall die. The son shall not suffer for the iniquity of the father, nor the father suffer for the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself." This underscores the need for every person to make his own decision to follow the Lord. Ezekiel also paints a beautiful picture of a future age in which God will rule triumphantly among his people. Although God's people will suffer at the hands of many pagan nations, just as Ezekiel prophesied, better days are assured. God will establish his universal rule among all his people who have become part of the family of David. Chapter 37, verses 24 through 25 is a clear reference to Messiah. It is a prophecy fulfilled when Jesus was born in Bethlehem more than 500 years later. Let me finish today by reading from Ezekiel chapter 43. I begin with verse 1. "Then he led me to the gate facing east. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was coming from the east. And the sound of his coming was like the sound of many waters. And the earth shone with his glory. The visions I saw was just like the vision that I had seen when he came to destroy the city, and just like the vision that I had seen by the Chebar Canal. And I fell on my face. As the glory of the Lord entered the temple by the gate facing east, the Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the inner court, and behold, the glory of the Lord filled the temple."